this video, I'm going to walk you through how to use the iMovie app on your Mac to make a photo slideshow. I've touched on this topic before, and if you'd like to check out any of those videos, you can find links in the description below. Okay, let's jump into the Mac and we'll take a look at iMovie. iMovie is an app that comes free with any new Mac that you buy. So chances are you already own a copy of it, and if it's not installed on your Mac, you can go to the Mac App Store and download it for free. Once you're in iMovie, if it's the first time you've ever used it, you'll land on some welcome screens, and then you'll land inside of the iMovie interface. On the left, it says iMovie Library, and then above that, you've got links to photos and all events. Because I've never used iMovie before, I only have one event that's marked with today's date. So what I'd like to do in this instance is I'd like to make a new movie. So I'm going to go here to File, and I'm going to choose to make a new movie, and it opens up a timeline along the bottom. Now, I'll notice that I don't have anything to put into my movie because I need to bring some stuff into iMovies. Now, if you use Apple Photos and you have an iPhone or an iPad and you have iCloud Photo Library turned on, chances are when you click Photos here, it'll ask you if you would like to allow it to connect to your photos, and if you click OK, it'll start to scan through that connection, and then eventually you'll be able to browse your photos, videos, albums, and just bring them across directly into the iMovie app. But we're not going to do that today. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to import some movies or some photos manually. So here, this is my photos link, and if I click up here, you can see I've got the choice between showing all photos, albums, shared albums, and my albums, which would be a whole collection of things that exist already in my Photos app. So we're not going to use that today. Instead, we're going to go back to My Movie, and I'm going to choose to import some media. You can do that in a couple of ways. You can either drag and drop directly from the Finder into the iMovie window, or you can click Import Media and then browse this way. It's the same thing. It's just one way is a little different than the other. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on this photo slideshow. I could have just select, you know what? Why don't I do that? I'll go back up a level and I'll select Photo Shoot Slideshow, and I'll click Import Selected, which will bring all of the photos and any videos that I have into my iMovie library. There you go. I've got 4 photos and I've got 1 video. We'll talk about the video a little bit later. So along the timeline, down here at the bottom, this little yellow thing is the playhead. That's where things will begin. If I press the space bar or click this little play button here, it'll run through whatever it is that's on the timeline. Nothing on the timeline yet. So let's take a photo or two and bring them down here. I'll do them one by one, although you can select them all and bring them as a group. So let me go ahead and click this first one and drop it on the timeline. And when I let it go, you'll notice that at the far left, this is 0. And up here, the timeline says it's 4 seconds. So whenever I bring a new photo into the timeline, it's going to inherit an automatic duration because, as you know, photos, they're not movies. They don't have a duration. They just exist regardless of time, right? So in a movie, which is what we're making, you actually have to think about how long will this thing show on the screen. And if I go here to my iMovie settings, I'll see that by default, photos inherit a duration of 4 seconds. You can change that if you want, but 4 seconds is the default, and I'm going to leave it as that. So with the timeline here, this 4 seconds looks pretty big. Over here on the right, there's a scale slider, and you can slide in and out to make these little photo clips longer or shorter, easier to see everything, kind of like zooming in and zooming out. Let me take another photo and let's drag it over here and drop it. So now I have 2 photos on the timeline. Each photo is 4 seconds. The timeline is 8 seconds. And if I wanted to rearrange the order of these things, I could just click on the second one and drag it across, put it in front of the first. So you can rearrange these by dragging them around to put them in whatever order you want them to be. And now for the last 2, I'm just going to draw a little rectangle around here, or you can hit the Shift key and click on each individual photo you'd like to bring across. And I'm just going to drag them both at one time into my clip. I can't quite see everything, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And there you go. Those are my 4 photos in there. You'll notice there's a little bit of animation going on. We'll talk about that in a moment. Some of you might be wondering, let's put this here. Some of you might be wondering, what might they be wondering, Ivan? Some of you might be wondering whether the iMovie app allows you to include videos as part of your iMovie. And the answer is yes. We'll talk about videos in a moment. Let's talk about pictures. So if I click on this first one here, you'll notice that it's got some animation going on. So when I select this picture, in the upper right, there are a collection of tools here, and the blue one, the crop tool, is highlighted. If I click on that, it's going to zoom out so that I can see the photos, and it's going to show me that I've got a few choices here for style: fit, crop to fill, and Ken Burns. By default, when you insert a photo into your iMovie timeline, it inherits the Ken Burns effect, which is kind of a panning and zooming feature that happens as your photo is displayed on the screen. It sort of animates the whole duration of the time the photo is showing. So here you can see that there are two little panels here. There is a start kind of in the middle, and then around that is end. So if you imagine, it starts off kind of close to these guys, and then as we progress, it zooms out slowly. Let's take a look at how that looks. If we press that, you can see it's zooming out. But we can control that. If we don't want it to do that, we can click this little guy here, and one of the buttons we can click is this kind of recycle arrow looking thing. If I click that, it swaps the start and the end. So now it starts a little bit zoomed out, and then slowly it zooms in. But if I wanted to, I can click the start frame and drag it down a little bit lower, and I could leave the frame there. So now what's going to happen is it'll start low and all the way zoomed out, and then slowly zoom in and go up at the same time. So you have a little bit of control over the animation, and you get that for each one of these photos. You can do a little bit of creativity here to kind of control. If I don't want it to grow so much, I can shrink that so it's more of a move rather than a pan. Excuse me, rather than a zoom, it's more of a move. Let's take a look. That's just moving, not zooming quite so much. Before it was moving more left and right. And you can do this. I'm going to leave these as they are, but let's take a look at how the slideshow is coming together so far. So if I press on this, it animates, and then it pops instantly over to the next one. There's no transition. It would be nice if I could transition gently from one image to the next, and so let's talk about that next. We'll go up here just above where my elements are that I'm including in the movie. I've got my media, I've got audio, video, titles, backgrounds, and transitions. If we click on transitions, we'll see that there are a variety of different transitions that are available. This one's like a cross dissolve. This one is a spin out. This one is cube. This one is mosaic. There are a whole bunch. And so the one I'm going to use first is cube because I like that one. I'm going to take cube here and drag it into the timeline between photos 1 and 2. And if I do that correctly, what should happen is when I get to the end of the first image, I get a transition to the next one. So let's go here and press the space bar, and you'll see I get a nice transition. Now, I tend to like using the same transition throughout a slideshow, but you definitely don't have to do that. You can choose a different transition between every image if you like. So I'm going to go ahead and drop here the mosaic one, and then this other one, I like the page curl. I'm going to choose the page curl and drop it in here. And then perhaps the last one, let's do a wipe down. And so now I've got transitions between all of the photos in my slideshow. So let's see. There we go. Cube. Then we've got some panning and zooming. We got the mosaic. You get the idea. You can have transitions between the photos. Now, you might be wondering, if I'm starting this slideshow, perhaps there's a special event or some kind of memory that I'm sharing with the audience. Can I put any text on the screen to let people know what's happening? Yes, you can. So if we go here to titles, there are a bunch of titles that are available for you to use in your project. And the titles sit on top of whatever is in your movie. So on top of a picture, on top of a video clip, and they show. Now, the thing is, they each get animation, but you don't have a tremendous amount of control over where they are. So the position of the text on the screen is sort of fixed, but you do get some animation. So I'd say look through the collection of titles to find one that you like, and perhaps choose that one. Let me find one with the text is a little bit lower on the screen, like this one, lower third. Let's see, is there animation? There is animation. So let's drag this one and drop it over here at the far left so that it starts right at the beginning of my slideshow. Now I'm going to call this one, let's see, Family Matters, because doesn't it? Yes, it does. All right, so let's go ahead and notice that this is going to be on screen for 4 seconds. If I want more precision, I can kind of zoom in a little bit more. And then when I slide across, I can see this is for 4 seconds, which is the entire time that the image is on, the first image is on the screen. I'm going to go ahead and click here and drag it down so that it's only on screen for 2 seconds. And now when I press the space, I get this Family Matters, and then it drops off of the screen. So you can do that as many titles as you want all throughout your presentation. You can control what the text is. And if I select this, I see there's a text tool along the top. I can click on that, change the font, change the alignment, change the color, but I can't change the position. So there are some options there. They're kind of determined by the template and the title effect that you choose. All right, so everything has been happening as a silent movie so far, and I imagine some of you might be interested in adding music to this particular presentation. And I'm calling it a presentation, but it's really a movie that we're making. iMovie is a lightweight movie editor, just like Final Cut, just like Premiere, just like DaVinci Resolve, just like CapCut. It's meant for creating video presentations, but if you just throw photos in there, you can add effects to spruce it up a little bit and make it more of a dynamic photo presentation. That's what we're doing. Okay, audio and video. Let's click on that tab. And if you haven't used this before, when you click on music, it may ask you if it can connect to your Apple Music. And depending on the collection of music that you have there, you may be able to reach across and bring those music titles directly into your presentation, along with sound effects and so forth. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring music that I have on my hard drive. I actually have a folder here, and I'm going to take this song and drag it and drop it right underneath the photos all the way to the far left so that the music begins at the start of my slideshow. So let me go ahead and resize this window just a little bit. Let me go back to my media, and now I've got some music. So let's see if I press the space. Okay, notice that the shape of the sounds, or the waveform, is visible here, and you can kind of edit these around here. If you're watching and you get enough practice doing this, you'll notice that you can kind of tell. It looks like the song gets started in earnest here, like that's where the drums come in. Let's take a look. Yeah. So if I want to start at that part and kind of skip over this intro, I'm going to place the playhead right here. Then I will right-click or control-click on that position on the clip, and I'm going to split the clip in 2 parts. If I select the first part, I can delete that and then drag this other clip all the way to the beginning, so it starts right where the drums come in. Okay, great. Now I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so I can see the end of my presentation, and I'll notice that this goes into video. This video, you can see the waveform there for the sounds that are attached to the video. So maybe I want my music to stop before then. If I had more clips afterwards, what I could do is I could split the clip here, split the clip, I could split the clip there, split the clip, and I could get rid of the music so that it's not competing with the audio that's built into the video clip. And if I wanted to, I could use this little handle and drag to the left, which is kind of like a fade out handle. It allows me to choose for the music to start fading to a little bit softer so that it's not competing with the video when it plays. Let me go ahead and select this rest of this audio. I'm not going to use it. I'm just showing you guys how this works with a few photo examples. Let's delete that. And now we've got a clip that's 22 seconds long. So let's take a look at how our presentation works right now.
Some of them might be wondering.
Now, everything is still living inside of iMovie. The next question would be, well, if I don't want to use iMovie and I want to actually present this thing, like maybe connect it to a TV and play it somewhere, what are my options? So if we go here to File, there's an option for Share. And we can either email it, we can go to social platforms directly, we can share an image. I'm going to share the file itself, and we'll see what my choices are here. So it's an iMovie. That's a tag. Formats audio and video. The resolution, those are my choices: 540p, 720p, or 1080p. 1080p is the highest quality here. If you're using high quality photos like me, that means that the end result of your video might be a little bit smaller, not quite as clear, sharp, or large. But 1080p tends to still be pretty usable on the internet for social media clips, for sharing, for text messages. It's kind of a nice trade-off between quality and file size. So 1080p is what I'm going to choose. I'm going to keep it at high quality, or actually I could go best, which means I'll get an even larger file size. I'll keep it at high quality. And then the compression, you can choose faster or better quality depending on how much detail you want to have put or packed into your video file that you're creating. I'll leave it faster for now, but sometimes I choose better quality, especially if I'm planning on showing my presentation on a very large TV or projector. All right, so let's click next. And then we pick where we want it to go. I'm going to choose to send this one to the desktop. And I'm going to call it Family Matters Slideshow. And then save. And that's it, folks. That's how you use iMovie to insert photos and create a slideshow with music and transitions on your Mac. If you have any questions for me, please drop them in the comments. If you have any stories about slideshows that you've made and the apps that you've used to make them, let me know. If you're already using iMovie for your slideshows, I'd love to hear it. And thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video.